tried to warn us. He tried to warn us. But we didn't listen. He tried to warn us. Putin is so paranoid that he has armed drivers swimming around his private beach looking for assassins, ex-security officer says. Well, actually, this makes a whole lot of sense. If he has any kind of beachfront home, I bet our president and every other president does that too. But that is pretty nuts to think about, that you are at such a level that dudes are just out swimming, looking for essentially who knows who, swimming around, or special forces popping up on floaty boats. Pretty nuts to think about, but it does say that they say Russian President Vladimir Putin is so paranoid that he has armed divers on the hunt for would-be assassins around his private beaches and deliberately gives out bogus information to his own bodyguards. So I don't see this as paranoid, because I believe the protection for our president does this kind of stuff. That's why they have decoys, everything else. And so if this is over the top, even for the presidential kind of security level thing, then maybe that's because there is some sort of threat to his life. It says this is how much he fears for his life, says Vitaly Bizhati, the former member of Putin's protection service, said during a recent interview with independent Russian outlet TV Rain. So I'm surprised that again is on an independent Russian outlet. Who worked for the Bizhati, who worked for the Federal Protection Service, or the FPS, fled from Russia to Ecuador after the Kremlin invaded UKR, according to Radio Free Europe. Also said that Putin is so worried about being taken out that he has one of his bodyguards working as a washing machine operator at a palace in Russian-annexed Crimea, the Telegraph reported, citing the TV Rain interview. Essentially saying that, well, people are washing their clothes, he's here in the dirt, I'm assuming. Pretty wild. We're going to talk about a lot of wild stuff, though, today, and we're going to go over some of the new information coming out, again, with Kim and Putin, which is all going kind of, the puzzle pieces are all fitting in. So we'll talk about this and much, much more tonight on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. He tried to warn us. He tried to warn us. But we didn't listen. All right, remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com. You can find today's thumbnail, and you will find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. When you see this thumbnail, click on it. You better hope he's wrong, and then you will find a full list of all of the sources for today's show. You will also see an overflow content yellow bar. That is all of the stuff that could not fit into the show. We'll talk about that at the very end. Also, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/friends to find all of our wonderful mods, and make sure to drop an M in the chat right now for all of those great folks that are here today. They keep the chat peaceful. They also help you if you need to be directed to somewhere or can't find a certain link or need help with the sources. Just ask one of the mods. They're all really great people, and they're here to help the community. So let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Right now, if you are watching the replay, highly recommend going and sharing the video that we just did over on news. Kind of goes over the most important five really big pieces of information from the last few days, including all of the different stuff coming out about Chinese EMPs, talking about, of course, every all of the other subjects we just talked about, like China loading up their coastal area. They're actually massing forces on their coastal area, which does not look good. That is a video that you can share with somebody who has never watched the show, and it's short and it's to the point. So make sure to go over there and share that out if you can. Also, just a really quick thank you. Thank you for everybody that has supported our independent channel. Again, there have been so many just crazy up and downs this year, and everybody is obviously on a down point. So it means even more that folks are still helping. And again, I really appreciate everybody that has supported us this year. So thank you guys, and we appreciate it. Everybody has been hit really hard by the economy. So again, for those that do end up helping, great. If the way that most people help is share our stuff out. That's more than enough. But again, for those that have actually helped out on PayPal or through Super Chat, we couldn't appreciate you enough. Again, we're not getting help anywhere else. So thank you so very much. Thank you, and thank you for supporting Independent. All right, and then Dex, do you want to talk about alien bodies with? Well, do you want to talk about it? Alien bodies with three-fingered hands and feet are presented by UFO expert at Mexican Congress, with non-humans found in Peru said to be 1,000 years old. This is wild.
Yeah, and this has been around before. So this is kind of like the second time these have been paraded around. So in this case, they are at a hearing with the Mexican government. It's very much like the hearings we were having. And if you can look at some of these pictures, I think there's one that you can see another person standing beside, so you can get some perspective on the size, because they're really not that big. They're very small. But ultimately, they're claiming that these were pulled out of a cave or somewhere in Peru. But this is, has been around before, and these have been shown before. They were, I think it was a Gaia, or I can't remember how you pronounce that channel. There was a thing with them a while back. I want to say in 2015 or another date that they had talked about this. But the interesting thing is they're putting these in front of the Mexican government as if they are legit, and if they are as they are actually real, and that's what they're claiming. So take a look. You guys decide. I'm not going to necessarily be the judge of this. I don't have all the information other than what's being reported, and I know that it has been talked about in the past. I cannot remember the gentleman's name. I want to say it's Jamie or James Masoon. I think is the person who has been speaking about these over time and trying to bring them to light. So rather fascinating. I know a lot of people are talking about it. It's coming back up. At the bottom of this article, I know it talks about Snopes, which I know nobody cares about Snopes, and debunking this back the last time it came around. But take it for what it is. It's kind of fascinating. Jamie Masoon is the
Looks
person
like
in
a
2015.
looks like a tchotchke. It looks like somebody on the beach would be like $20, and you'd be like 8, and they'd be like 4, 8 pesos. Okay, deal. Made it myself. Look at this thing. It just, yeah. But it is pretty crazy to think the casing makes it look so much more professional, though. There is a chance, though. Let's see here. Let me pop up. I feel like it has some resemblance there. Let's see. Think. Let's see. Yeah, I think I saw a picture of this before. Maybe this is actually. Maybe it is actually uh, Tyrone Lannister. I don't know. Maybe they found. Maybe they found him. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. Do you believe that this is real? And it does have glass over it, which I didn't notice at first. But from what I have seen, there was another angle that looks like it's not like air safe or anything. And it looks like it's like literally dissolving, like it's made out of clay. Do you think it's real? I have never seen, out of all of the kind of artist rendition, this looks like they've tried to make a art project that looks like bone, but look at that. That just that looks so fake to me. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear it. And then Putin welcomes Kim Jong-un at Cosmodrome in Russia's Far East. So Kim Jong-un took the bulletproof train that we showed the other day. It's old school. It's the same train that his father and his grandfather took. And that bulletproof train, yeah, I think we read that it travels at like 20 miles per hour or something like that. It's a super slow train. So it takes a long time for him to get over to Russia. Well, apparently now they are meeting and they are doing some backdoor deals. It says Russian President Vladimir Putin met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at a cosmodrome in Russia's Far East for a meeting that underscores how the two leaders' interests are aligning in the face of a separate, intensifying confrontations with the United States. After Kim arrived by limousine, brought in his armored train by Pyongyang, it said Putin shook hands with him and said he was very glad to see him. Russian state media quoted Kim as thanking Putin for the invitation to visit, despite being busy. The two leaders will inspect the Cosmodrome and then sit down for talks, Russian state media reported. And then hours earlier, North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles towards the sea. So they're probably going to be talking about that, I'm assuming. But yeah, this is going on at the same time as them firing missiles. It said North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles toward the sea on Wednesday as leader Kim Jong-un rolled through Russia on an armored train toward a meeting with President Vlad. The meeting underscores how the two leaders' interests are aligning in the face of their separate, intensifying confrontation. So with this, most of the news is stuff that we're not going to see. It's going to be the kind of agreements or whatever is actually going to happen between the two of them. Dex.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. I mean, the talking points that come out are just high level, and they don't really give us much. Like the latest that's come out on this is that Kim says he's quote unquote giving his full and unconditional support. But what we all know is that Putin. Oh, I'll give you one other thing before I get to that. They also invited Putin to come to NK, and Putin said he would. I don't know when. He said when it was convenient for him, so that could be any time if it even happens. But the other thing that we know is what's really going on here is Putin definitely wants a lot of the stockpiles that Kim has. He has a lot of aging ammunition and rockets for Soviet era weapons. And if he can get his hands on that stuff, it will be helpful for them in the UKR conflict. And I'm sure Kim is more than willing to give up that stuff in exchange for technology and things that can advance his tech, his military tech, whether it be submarine tech or nuclear technology.
It's just it's a crazy thing to think about these two even meeting. Kim Jong-un is such a character and such this like I guess he's almost a cartoon character, you know. He's a mysterious figure that nobody really knows, but most of us kind of take him as a joke. Kim Jong-un is been, you know, the butt of every joke here, and but at the same time, that could be really bad for all of us. His country, we don't know where they are mentally, and does he see his country lasting forever, lasting for another 50 years? Or does he see his country at the end of a rope? You know, what is the actual situation? We hear that they're starving, that the people are starving, and that they're worse off than anybody else in the world. Obviously, though, we also hear that they make a lot of their money through black market moves. So they make things there that they can't make anywhere else. They could have laboratories making things for their allies that they can't build anywhere else. Because they're not sanctioned. They're not they are sanctioned, but they're not monitored like everywhere else in the world. They might be monitored from satellite, and they might have some spies in there, but again, they do a lot of secretive things, and they're very paranoid, so they keep things on a really tight-lipped kind of level. So I just wonder what really goes on there, and would Kim Jong-un sell his country out for a spot at the table and running somewhere else? What if somebody promised him, like, hey, you'll be able to run the Baltics one day, or we'll go back to old school kingdoms, and we're going to give you a kingdom. or we'll give you countries to rule and you'll be the president of this country or whatever, for him to sell out his country. Because obviously he doesn't care about his people. He cares about his government. He cares about his money. But does he care about the actual people that live there? Probably not. He and their culture has convinced people that he's some sort of god, right? So I guess that would be something hard to give up, where there's a whole country that's been brainwashed into thinking you are God. That's pretty, I would see where the allure is there for a greedy human being to like that. But what are they actually doing? Is it all about artillery? Because that's what mainstream says. I think there's something else in the works. I think there's a Fantastic Freddy being planned, and they have to do it in person so it doesn't get out. So that's what the one thing I'm worried about is some sort of Fantastic Freddy being plotted. Westmax Roofing Inc. Hey, thank you, and I hope you're still here. I know when people say they can't catch me live, it's usually because they don't have time. If you're doing roofing, then you're working hard, so I get it. I did roofing for a while, and that was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. I've said before, like on the flat tar roofs during summer, I could relate it to being in hell. That was also because I was not a skilled laborer. I had to do all the rough stuff. But yeah, you do a hard job there. But says, finally got a chance to watch live and not a replay. Marf and Dex, you are both amazing. What you do is appreciated and most importantly needed. Marf for life. Hey, well, thank you, Westmax Roofing, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And then Juby Joe, awesome. Did you just figure out how to seamlessly merge your streams? Juby Joe, we actually have done it for a long time. That's how we get everybody over to the Shoutro. So yes, it is nice, but usually it takes longer time to get the other show started after we end the show over on news. And then prepping us for Great Deception, Bible talks about it. Says Bible Talk 777. I hope that everybody is wrong on this. I hope we are wrong, that's for sure. And then massive explosions rock Putin's Black Sea Fleet headquarters in biggest ever UK strike as a submarine and warship are blasted. So this could be a huge escalation. Again, if this was 8 months ago, this would be a giant deal. People would be biting their nails, wondering if we're going to World War III. Now, people are so comfortable, like it's not going to happen. I feel like we're already in it, and it's just going to step right up into the point where everybody realizes that, countries from all over the world are sending people to here or sending people there. And then people will finally realize we are already in World War III. It says that UK blasted a Russian naval port with a barrage of missiles today, heavily damaging a Russian attack submarine and naval ship. Blistering strikes saw up to 7 huge explosions, resulting in a massive inferno in Sevastopol port. The Kilo-class Rostov-on-Don sub was damaged in the shipyard strike, slated Kremlin-friendly shop media. It said that the diesel-electric vessel launched in 2014 had been used to attack UKR, and a second damaged vessel was a large landing ship called Minsk. I feel like we've heard about the Minsk specifically. I know that the other one wasn't it called Moskva or something? What was the big one that got knocked out in the very beginning of this, which was like one of their flagship ships? I think that was the Moskva. But again, now they've taken out the Minsk and
that's correct,
a submarine. It says this follows earlier damage to the war landing Saratov, Nochevorodsk, and Caesar Kunikov. The Putin-appointed governor of occupied Sevastopol, Mikhail Razumiev, said that at least 24 people were wounded and 2 perished. Footage showed the scale of the attack, the largest of the conflict so far, on the city, which is the headquarters to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. So now they are hitting major points in Russia. This could very well have Russia turn up the heat. So we're going to see this over the next couple of weeks. We'll follow every kind of escalation that ends up happening. And if you follow the show, then you will too. And then before we go over, almost 80% of Ukrainians consider Zelensky responsible for corruption. Not hard to believe. I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check this out. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about EMP and grid down scenarios because now they are heavily talking about something we've been talking about for years, which is grid down and EMP. They are actually more likely than ever right now because of all of the actual threats coming from other countries. As far as that goes, that is one reason to get yourself a solar generator, but more so for any kind of storm, for any kind of regional event that may happen, having a backup power supply is a must. And people don't really need to be sold on getting a generator. It's mainly about which one, right? Or saving up to get one. This is an energy solar generator. And the best part about this is really great for an SHTF scenario because if you are trying to get gas in an SHTF or even a major regional disaster, you are going to quickly find that it is not going to be easy to get gas, let alone cheap to get gas if anything serious happens. If you do have gas stations that are open after some sort of major event, then usually there's 3 hour wait or 6 hour wait, or we've even seen when the pipeline shut down, people waited for almost a day for gas. So this is something where if you get a package that has foldable panels, you can put those out, you can store power, and then keep that stored for whenever you need it. This is a solar generator, so it literally can either get its power from charging from the wall while we do have power, and then store it for when you don't, or you can put panels out, and it's extremely simple. You put the panel out, you plug one cord into it, and then it starts generating power from the sun. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. The reason why we recommend this one is it's modular. You can edit it and alter it however you want. They are coming out with new alterations. Again, they just came out with the UPS rapid charger, which not only charges it, essentially each 1,000 watt battery can be charged in about 40 minutes, but it can also work as a UPS. So it turns the system into an uninterrupted power supply, meaning that if you plug something into this into the wall, when the power goes out, it will immediately switch over. So it's extremely utility savvy, and it is incredibly built well. This thing is built like a tank, and they've even now made it better. There's also the Flex Tactical. If you want to go all out, I would highly recommend going there. That has a 1,500-pound latch system. It has a reinforced steel system inside, and then, of course, it has heaters built into each battery. So same technology, only made even tougher. That was actually designed by the Air Force Research Laboratory and Energy together. So this specific one is actually just won the SBIR Phase 2 contract and is going to be shipping out with the Army. So you know that it's that tough. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. More so than anything, though, being able to have power wherever you need it, to be able to throw this in your truck or go to work or use your tools with it, it's pretty awesome. Or even go out camping and use it to power a projector out in the middle of nowhere with no power. It's awesome. Make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. And again, make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Dex, do you want to talk about almost 80% of Ukrainians consider the corruption completely on Zelensky's shoulders?
I think the rest of us feel the same way. It seems like this is a survey done in Kiev or in UKR with a couple of charitable foundations and another institute Institute of Sociology that was doing this. And they were asking the people that basic question, like, do you think he's responsible for the corruption, or not for it, but should he be held responsible for it? Um, and of course, I mean, ultimately, when you think about it, if he's in charge of the administration and all the people below him, and they're all doing this corrupt stuff, and he's the leader, then he should probably be held accountable for fixing it, or for ending it. So it's not. It does. It's sort of an obvious, right? That's my reaction to it. There was a little bit of interesting thing, like in the younger people, they didn't care as much. It was like 70%, but older people, they were like 81% in agreement that he's responsible for this and needs to fix it. But I don't know where they're going to go with this, other than maybe it does show at least the thought process of people in UKR. I don't know that he's just going to like resign tomorrow and say sorry for the corruption. And
Well,
even
it's
if he
like,
did, there'd just be another puppet would go in there. So
is it, well, what's crazy is 50, 60, maybe even 70% of Americans know that there's a lot of corruption in our own system. Maybe 100% think that there is a level of corruption in the United States, but there's a good amount of us that believe it is completely corrupt. Like it is messed up. Not surprised to see that there because before this conflict, if you go back even to 2014, you have CNN and all of our mainstream going there in person and showing how corrupt it was. And we're supposed to believe that after they switched out leaders that it's all good. Zelensky, right under Zelensky, it's like to put it in perspective, if our president had the 9 people directly underneath them all resign at the same time, this is what happened. 9 people all resigned at the same time, and they resigned because they all people were looking and they had like $1 million cars and supercars and $1 million mansions. And people were like, where the heck did that come from after we just, popped $11,000 out of each American taxpayer pocket? How the hell did you get that? And then, of course, they see that the recruiters in UKR, the actual recruiting company, one of them got in trouble, and I believe they might have said it was multiple, but the money that was sent to these recruiters to try to get new soldiers, essentially those guys had, all of this money lying around. They were taking out huge chunks of money for themselves. So it's like you're going to believe that all the way up until the very top, but this guy's like some sort of golden angel that you should put as your profile pic? I don't get it. Obviously, they think it is because if you live somewhere, you know what's going on around you. I'm surprised that they admit it, though. I'm surprised they didn't censor that survey. And then China, Venezuela sign agreements on economy, trade, and tourism. This is also something that like we're not going to see the truth, what is actually happening underneath what's visible to the public. Venezuela is going to be part of World War III. Like I see Venezuelan soldiers. If there ever was a Red Dawn scenario, Venezuela would be part of it. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores walked together after arriving in Beijing. It said that Venezuela signed several bilateral cooperation documents focused on various areas, including economy, trade, and tourism. China state broadcaster China Central TV said, in promoting stronger ties between the two countries, China's Xi signed deals with Nicolas Maduro after a meeting in Beijing. Xi pointed out that the two countries are partners with shared development, state media reported, highlighting that both are, quote, good friends with mutual trust. So China's making deals all over the place. Xi has also noted that next year will be the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Venezuela. The two countries also signed deals on economy, trade, science, and technology, civil aviation, and aerospace. So they're going to be probably manufacturing things there that they can't manufacture at home. Venezuela said that it actively supports China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is essentially a modern day Genghis Khan tactic. And it says China has said, or Maduro has said that Venezuela is also willing to closely communicate and cooperate with China within multilateral frameworks such as BRICS. So they're also on board with the whole BRICS thing. And BRICS, out of anything, rather than a missile flying in the air, that's going to be what ends up starting a real hot war. Dex, what's your opinion on Venezuela? Obviously, they had their crazy inflation event that happened, and their blackouts that we covered, and all sorts of craziness with Nicolas Maduro.
Well, they were certainly vulnerable and ripe for China to swoop in, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I don't think that that they were going to come running to the West or anybody on the our allies to help them, because they've always seemed to be partnered with Russia and others that align more with China. So for China to swoop in and wave some money around and offer them all sorts of good things like they like to do, they offer these great deals and it seemed like a great deal, and then they sort of fall through, and then later the countries end up owing, I should say, a lot to China, or giving up a lot to China in exchange for the fact that their deal didn't work the way they wanted it to. Whether they be port access or control of shipping or other things. that's what we have to pay attention to. And Venezuela is so close to our southern borders, so it is not that far, just a hop across the Gulf there, and you're at the U.S. So kind of a big deal.
It's pretty obvious that the geographical location of all these places is definitely an important part of the story. Um, Especially with all of these countries that were already having issues, and then China comes in and saves the day. And this to me, I don't know if other people, how do you guys pick this up? China unveils Taiwan economic integration plan as warships conduct their maneuvers off the coast. So as they're loading up their bases, and who knows, maybe this could be like they're flexing their muscles, so somebody in Taiwan goes, okay, you know what, we're just going to reunite. I don't think so. What if they are doing this because they're essentially, puffing their chest, right? Could be saber rattling. At the same time, they're doing one of the largest naval exercises with over 20 ships. They say that they're massing along the coastline. They're sending forces. They're sending thousands and thousands of troops to the coastline. This is something that would happen right before they go and invade somewhere. They unveil this plan to integrate with China. Sounds to me like this could be like their last kind of effort. Like, hey, either take this or else. Dex, when you see this, just by headline alone, it looks like they're kind of putting something out like, hey, take this or this is your last chance type of thing.
Exactly. And let's not forget, like, they would love to reunify and not fire a single shot. They did that with Hong Kong. They were able to infiltrate the government. They were able to infiltrate and infiltrate, maybe a little strong, but probably the right word. But what they really did was they put politicians in place, got them to run that were sympathetic to bringing it back, got them into position, and then before you know it, they had enough power in the right positions there to then enact the laws and bring everything back and not have to go in. Even though we did report, if you remember back when Hong Kong was going through all of that, they did roll in police, lots of it. They did roll a lot, but they never really, it wasn't a complete military operation like we think about with Taiwan. And for them, I would expect them to try every available avenue they have to try to win back and reintegrate Taiwan without having to fire a shot or go kinetic. But it won't. I don't see that happening as easily. It's a little bit different scenario than Hong Kong, and a very big different scenario than Hong Kong. And this is their dream. And certainly, like you said, this is probably putting it out there as in, like, here's some ways we can bring our economies together, bring greatness together, et cetera. Why not get in bed together as opposed to fighting? So, but I doubt it's going to work.
Yeah, and it's like all the signs are there that China's about to take Taiwan. I think this might actually be it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope in 6 months you're like, oh, you said it was going to happen. I don't know, but I think that it's going to happen soon. I think that this Taiwan's going to pop everything off. It feels like we are literally coming to a precipice. This is a long game too. Not to mention this fits into the overall kind of the thing that's going on with our world. All of these countries are doing something to reset. So it almost seems like they sat at a table and they've chose, China as the next rulers of the planet. They're like, oh, well, yeah, we're going to be, this whole BRICS system will be the new number one, and the dollar won't be. It's crazy to even think about that. Crux 173, thank you for subscribing. Rocat the Animator, thank you for subscribing. Thank you everybody that just joined, and thank you Johnson over on D Live. Thank you for the diamonds. It says all your dreams are strange. Love comes a walking in, and you sense a change. Nothing feels the same. Well, I can agree with that statement. As far as how many of you guys sense a big change coming? I mean, we're already going through a change right now, but drop in the chat. Do you feel do you feel a large change happening all around you, and 2 for no, no you don't, or 3, put in your own answer there. Do you feel like there is a massive change happening right now or coming? Look at that Danish girl, Josephine. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was those are lyrics from Van Halen. Love Walks In.
Oh yeah, the second
The
part.
Hagar years. Yeah. That whole that comment. When you said it, I was like, I know that.
Well, look at the chat. Let's. By the way, I asked one if you feel like a big change is coming. Look at that. The first 2 popped up. By the way, everybody said 1. Are we all psychic, or is it just that it's that obvious? Seems to me like, and that's what I don't get. Like the people that push back against it, are they not listening to anybody around them? Everybody around them is thinking this, but it's discouraged in public to talk about this kind of stuff. What we're talking about right now, World War III. If you say you think World War is coming, it is baked into us to go, oh, that person's cuckoo. It's obvious, Juby Joe says. Yes. Change is already here, Donna Brown. And they're doing it incrementally. They're changing everything around us. Sorry, you guys.
Exactly.
I'm getting sick. I can feel my whole family got sick, and I don't know if you guys know. Have you ever felt it like over an hour? I can feel myself getting sick. My whole family got the sickness, and I didn't really get the bad part of it. But you know that feeling, and then you can taste it. You can feel it in your throat. Oh, man.
Ooh,
it literally
that's
hit.
miserable.
Like 10 minutes ago, I was fine, and it just hit. Anyways, what were you going to say, Dex?
I was just going to say the change. It's like if you weren't looking at what we look at today and think that this big thing's coming, this big change is coming, and you just look back at the past, would you consider everything we've been through big change? Because I certainly would. You could go all the way back to the event that happened in September that we just had an anniversary for. From that day, even through CV, I would think, as somebody you just said in the comments and chat said, the change is already here. Yeah, we've been through big change. It's amazing, and to think that we look back and say that's not as big as what's coming. Something bigger is coming.
Well, if they asked you like, hey, could you see America being gun free, like no weapons on the street, the second A going away? People would go, oh, absolutely not. Even though they struck down this whole thing where they were gonna try to do this health emergency. And by the way, that I wonder if everybody else in the politics like okayed that, because that so points everybody. Even Mr. Hogg, David, said like, I'm for gun safety, but you can't do it under a health emergency. It makes me think, it's like that points out a lot of regular people are going to go, wait a second, why are they using a health emergency for this? Because we know since 2019, there's been a health emergency used for everything. They could literally basically nullify the Constitution for a health emergency. In fact, that's some of the only ways that you can essentially step over the Constitution are health emergencies. And she just used that to say, oh, you're not allowed to have weapons. Supreme Court, I think it was Supreme Court that said, hey, you can't do this. And it's like that, even them doing that, that's a huge, huge move in the wrong direction. And they're trying to do that kind of stuff. And I bet you they did that to gauge people's response, see how people reacted, see how it was going to work, because that's the goal. They want in the next 6 years, 7 years, they want by 2030 to have all of this stuff done. And they are so actively trying to change all of the things that fundamentally made us the best country in the world. They want to take one by one, and they're brainwashing people into helping get rid of these things. I mean, I get texts on my phone from these groups that like, help us get these off the street and blah, blah, blah. And we need help with this, and that. It's like, people get bombarded with this info, and the people that do believe mainstream, I'm just like blown away that they believe these angles that are just completely falsified. It's like it's the fact that most people are skeptical that there could be something this crazy, right? Back in 2019, if somebody said like maybe that everybody's in cahoots, all these countries around the world are kind of coordinating on something. What did people respond? Oh, so you think every doctor in the world, every person in the world is collaborating or something, right? No, but the people above them are, and we saw it happen. And the countries that didn't collaborate, the countries that didn't walk the walk, mysteriously, I think like 6 months went by, and 5 leaders of 5 countries that said we're not doing that here either perished or mysteriously changed out. So yeah, I do think it's possible, and we see the changes happening around us. It's insane. Pogo Loco Skyhouse, thank you. America's hypersonic missile has failed to launch again. It's almost like somebody's sabotaging us from the inside out, or somebody's purposely screwing us up. It's like the people at the very top want America to fail. They are tearing them down because somebody else is going to take the place. Last week, the Army was on the verge of conducting the first flight test of the newly developed Dark Eagle, which in itself, the name, Eagle is like American, right? This is the Dark Eagle hypersonic medium-range land attack missile at Cape Canaveral, named Joint Flight Campaign 2. The launch would focus on testing the functionality of the missile battery's weapon control system and battery operations. But then the service conducted a pre-flight check. Nobody knows exactly what the check discovered, but we do know that the flight test was canceled last Wednesday as a result of what it found, per an Army spokesman. It said this marks yet another setback for the Pentagon's program to introduce hypersonic missiles capabilities into all 3 primary fighting services to catch up with similar capabilities developed by Russia and China. How are we behind in this? There's a lot of folks that are like, oh, you should be America's kick-ass, and they got nothing on us. How are they still ahead of us in this kind of stuff? Those same people go, no, they're not really. They're just lying, and they're not. What if we're not, though? What if they are actually ahead of us in this kind of technology? How did that even happen? It seems to me like most of the same people that would say that also have seen how there's been one person after another that has tried to sabotage what we had here in the U.S. They are trying to dismantle every part of the Constitution. It's really quite scary how they are going after every part. It's almost like as if like the competitor of a business is slowly dismantling another business one piece at a time. Somehow, wrecking their reviews and doing this and setting their dumpster on fire and in some cases literally causing confusion and sowing chaos. We've been covering this over the last couple of days. That's literally what they say they're doing. This is not good. All right, and then Mrs. Brazil, thank you for subscribing. It's nice to have you here, and thank you for all of the new people that have joined. Thank you guys for sharing this out. Thank you for every single person that walks in the door and stays. Make sure to greet anybody that you see that's new in the chat. Thank you, Miss Brazil. Appreciate that. And Crux173, thank you and welcome as well. Let's see here. And then $1.5 trillion worth of white gold found in a supervolcano on Nevada-Oregon border. Before we cover that, I do want to remind you, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. This is the same company that's outfitting agencies like DHS, DOD, and they're helping protect the government buildings and military buildings. But again, civilians have to protect themselves. Again, if you want to protect your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles, or your boats, or even your generators, or even your ham radio, they have a device for pretty much everything. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This can essentially ground the signal in multiple EMP strikes or a CME or a Carrington level event from the sun in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. Go over to marfugglenews.com/EMP for $50 off. Not only you'll get a huge discount on each device, but you'll also be helping our independent news. Thank you guys, and thank you as well for sharing those with friends and family as well. Dex, what is this white gold? They found white gold in a super volcano on the Nevada-Oregon border. Somebody's getting rich.
Well, yeah, it's not an episode of the Beverly Hillbillies, and they didn't find liquid gold in the ground, so they could move to the out to the Beverly Hills. But look, they what they're saying is a huge deposit of lithium, and that's the term they're using for this white gold, as they call it, is lithium. And they found a very large deposit, apparently that can something around 20 to 40 million metric tons of lithium, and it's near Nevada, near the Nevada-Oregon border. So that just to give you a kind of a general location. I think there's even a map in here you can see. But this is huge because when you think about the amount of production and mining that's available and the share right now, like Australia being the largest with something like 61 million tons, Chile 39 million, and China 19 million. You actually would have thought China would be more, but I think they got more of a corner on the rare earth minerals than just the lithium alone. But for us to pull up, 20 to 40 tons, million tons of this, or at least a mine that's capable of producing that, that would put us up there, in second place behind Australia, which has obviously the most, 61 million right now. So some pretty significant numbers. Those charts and the numbers I'm telling you about, the map I'm telling you about, it's all right there in the article. You can see it. If you're curious, this is going to potentially, will be a significant, I don't want to say negotiating factor, but at least a significant strength if we're able to mine it. Now, of course, the way our administration works, or I should say administrations like to work, is then you got to go through the whole environmental thing. And, we found huge deposits of really very valuable rare earth minerals up in Alaska, Pebble Mine. But as much as the state wants to do it, as much as the locals want to do it, as much as the businesses want to do it, apparently the federal EPA swoops in and says, nah, we got to protect some fish down the stream there. So we're not going to allow you to mine this. We'll have to, get it from China. So we'll have to see where this goes. But them discovering this, it's a huge deal. So if they found this large reserve, it can make a big difference, especially as it matters to the lithium that gets produced and used in all of our future technological devices that are mostly battery driven.
I get that it would be changing nature, but I was just thinking in my head, with all the billions they spend on developing this, developing that. So say if there is a natural area in Alaska, how they could spend just billions of dollars instead of shipping it away to some other country to basically be blown up, figure out a way or build a system where that local animal could still survive and be fine and thrive even, and somehow contain, whatever kind of operation they do there without harming the local population. Nobody wants to see extinct animals or anything like that. But what about finding another place on Earth and somehow finding the technology to move animals to the exact same climate or something like that, and make sure that there's no chance of extinction or something like that? There is a lot of animals that are going extinct right now, which is kind of nuts. I covered it on a show, but we went over it. It was like, it's a huge number. Dex, do you remember that show we talked about it? There was all sorts of animals, and most of them were not because of human stuff. This was because of different things going on with different natural cycles that are happening. That was the argument, that natural cycles are changing out, but they also are finding new animals. New animals are popping up all the time. They just found a new monkey in South Africa, which is kind of crazy. And then AI bot is better than doctors at diagnosing patients in A&E, or basically like emergency care type. I forget what if somebody from Europe wants to...
Accident and emergency.
That's right. Accident and emergency. It's kind of like their ER, right? This is crazy because more people are going to start going to ChatGPT, and I don't recommend doing this now, but they're saying that essentially people would give their lists of symptoms and it would diagnose out of I think it said 87% of the time it lined up exactly with the doctors. And there were even a couple scenarios where it got the diagnosis right and the doctor did not. In fact, the doctors couldn't figure something out. Or Dex, was that a side story? You remember that story?
Yeah, as a side story, there was a child who had been to 17 doctors with some sort of chronic pain, and none of them could figure it out, but then ChatGPT did.
Because and everybody scares the crap out of themselves anytime they have like symptoms. They'll look up, oh, runny nose, or stuffed nose, back pain. My right toe is tingling. They're like, it's cancer. Everybody does that, but apparently this is actually telling them the right things, right? So are we going to have doctors replaced too? And then if you actually need a physical service, they'll just have robots that stitch you up. People really just can't grasp that even in a few short years, all of these kind of jobs will be gone. So if they are slowly going to be able to replace almost every job in existence, even the high paying ones, the middle class ones, then who is this going to be like medieval times where the very richest are highborns, and then you'll have lowborns, which is basically everybody else? Because it will basically be slaves. Like, I don't even think they'll need slave work. So what happens then? That we always see in sci-fi that evolution would mean that we're somehow, we don't have a monetary system. Like in Star Trek, after a certain 2300 or something, they stop using money. It's not about money. It's like it works out differently, right? Is that where we're going to go? Is that money won't matter anymore? I don't think so. Not with the greedy people on Earth now. But one thing is for sure, all sorts of jobs are going to disappear. And people really don't have any fear of this yet. There are some people that do fear that this could happen, but this is going to happen. The robots and everything that's coming around, this is no longer sci-fi. And we've been saying this for years, but people still aren't wrapping their head around it. This is going to be bad within a decade. So it's very freaky to see. Like, we have covered almost every job is at threat right now because of AI. And it almost makes you think, like, what if they do get into some sort of world war that slows everything back and starts us over? Or do we evolve into a type 1 civilization that has control over other planets and we don't care about money? You know how they say, in the future, you'll own nothing and be happy. Nobody still knows what that means. And then CIA bribed analysts to change the lab and the leak conclusions. Senior level whistleblower. Dex, this is no surprise. And of course, almost everything that was talked about on the internet it never went away. People just kept pushing it. We find out that, oh, well, it turns out it's true. I still don't know, though, because this could be 4D chess where they make you think it's not, then they say, oh, it was, and it was because of this, when in reality, it's some sort of, thing that the CIA did. Who knows? Dex, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, now you got to wonder, why is the that three-letter agency involved at all? Like, the original theory was zoonotic, and then the new theory, or the much more obvious theory, at least that's been pushed even by the government now, is the opposite. It's the lab. So why would they be bribing media back then when it first came out, to get them to flip back to zoonotic? And that, like, what is our three-letter agency doing here? And or is it because they're actually involved in this? I think that's now, mind you, all of this could just be bupkis because it's coming from a whistleblower. So he could just be making the whole thing up. We don't know, right? But if you want to go by what he's telling us, then we have certainly a question to be asked, like, what is their involvement, and why are they even, what do they gain by getting people to, or getting media outlets to change the narrative. I mean, we know that that three-letter agency is involved in our media. Operation Paperclip and other things have told us that at great lengths that they've been involved. But why this story? Why is this one? And I think that's the real question we ought to be asking. Aside from, is this even true? But certainly, the other thing that's interesting is some politicians, or I'd say politicians, but some very high-ranking officials have said, look, you could have, if you look at the evidence on both theories, one being the zoonotic and the other being the lab one, you'd have a mountain of evidence on one side, which is the lab one, and you have hardly any on the other side. So it's kind of obvious, at least to them. At least that's what they're telling us, right? And that's why over the last 6 months, this whole lab theory has been very very strong and been repeated over and over again out of the government, out of the politicians, and out of others. So,
And China claimed
but
it was us. China
of course,
China told their whole country in their G approved news, in news that a huge chunk of the population takes as gospel. They said that the CV, that was an attack on China. That's what they said in one of their huge president approved pieces of propaganda, or who knows, maybe it's the truth. We don't know. I mean, look at all of the connections and all the funding and all of the involvement. It's like, when this happened, if it came from a lab like that, there should have been zero, absolutely no connection with the US, period. But of course, we found out, the more we find out, the more connections there are. It's like, well, of course there's some shady stuff here. And when you if you go all the way back to the very base of it and you find all that out, then it puts the whole world changing around us in perspective. And then you start saying, oh, I guess it could be a worldwide thing, right? Oh. That's why when people believe parts of the mainstream, and then what's crazy is then people kind of woke up after CV. A lot of people felt burnt. Like they in the very beginning, they said so many things that weren't true. And their excuse was, well, we just didn't know. And we thought we were telling the truth. And we thought that it protected you against this, but it actually didn't protect you. And it made it worse. And it had horrible, things that came along with it. But the point being is, like, later down the road, we find out people are still burned. Then they come out with it. And if this comes out again, people will somehow believe it again. And it's all under the assumption, like, well, maybe this time it's the real time. And all of us are going to fall for it if something happens. I mean, like, I know that we won't, but then some part of us will be scared that it's the real thing, because the real thing does exist. Or the other option is that you're not scared at all, and a real thing comes along and you're not prepared for it, because an actual thing that comes out and destroys all of people comes out, and people do the opposite of what they should do during a real event like that. It's pretty alarming to think about what a real one would do to us, like an Ebola type thing, but massively transmissible. That's terrifying. Like Outbreak the movie type stuff, or 12 Monkeys type stuff. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Sweatin' Ministries says, just think of all of this. Biblical and the Feast of Trumpets is this week. Everything is intensifying the closer we get. Sweatin' Ministries, thank you, by the way. Thank you for your support. We were actually just talking about a new theory that came out. Well, we'll put it out in a possible video. Haven't decided if we're going to put it out or not. A theory that a certain place in biblical times was nuked, not hit with the pillars of salt. It was actually nuked. Danish Girl, much love to everyone. Keep your head on a swivel and pay attention to what's going on as much as you can. Thank you for the work, Adam Dex Mods. Everything you do to bring us this information. Hey, well, thank you, Danish Girl, and thank you again for supporting our channel. Thank you for making it to almost every show. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Couldn't thank you enough. All right. Real quick, just go over and check out Harvest Right if you haven't already. If you don't know what freeze drying food is, it's the best way to preserve food. And right now, they have an awesome $300 off on their systems. They're very, very cool systems that can preserve food up to 25 years with almost all the flavors. Again, you can preserve anything from your own garden to meats to whatever your imagination can think of. There's a good chance it can be freeze dried and preserved. You can customize your own prep food, and it will cost you about a third of the cost of buying it store bought. Again, that's the cool part too, is when you do your own freeze drying of foods, you can go on the hunt. You can be thrifty. You can go get food however you want. You can get couponed food and then freeze dry it, and it will be preserved for up to 25 plus years. So it's a really great way to do it. It's an investment in the beginning to get the machine, but once you have it, you have one of the most efficient ways to preserve food, and you can be self-reliant, and you can actually take everything around you and preserve it. I know somebody who has a freeze dryer that's literally preserving food that they get at the food bank. Basically, they're preserving a ton of food that they're getting for free, and they got their freeze dryer for free as well. Got well, it, practically free from a garage sale. But they are some of the most thrifty people I know. They are spending virtually nothing, and they are doing this. Again, it's a really, really, really great way to preserve food. It's not cheap to get into, but once you're into it, it is an absolute beast of a system to get yourself prepped. Go to marfugglenews.com/freeze. Again, marfugglenews.com/freeze. They also still have the contest if you want to try to win. Just click on that box right there on our website, marfugglenews.com/freeze. All right, Dex, let's go over the web only. Got some insane stuff down here as well, especially in the politics. And then I'm going to put a final word in after that.
Yeah, we certainly do. So head over to marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here. You're going to get past all of the news that we just covered, all the links, the sources. If you want to know what you remember, we talked about something, it's there. That's where you go find it. When you hit this yellow bar, it's the rest of the story. Of course, you can see the Resvani tank there if you want to click to enter and win to win that. But lots of other things happen, so pay attention. As I mentioned earlier, there's a link here for the toddler that they, I guess, figured out as rare condition using AI, as opposed to 17 doctors in 3 years of trying to diagnose him, and yet, AI figured it out real quick. We do have updates on the MGM. We have updates. Get this, flamingos. Have you been seeing flamingos? I haven't, but I know a lot of other people are saying it. They've been spotted all across the U.S. in places you don't normally see flamingos, and I think they're suggesting it's because of that big hurricane, Idalia, that came through. Caused a lot of strange migrations and movements of those birds. So, but let me know if you've been seeing flamingos in your area, because it's been really weird. Um, Lots of other stuff going on. Germany sending a new military package. We do have updates on what's going on in UKR. Some of the munitions that they're looking for Russia, and all of that, including some updates on, if you want to see the inside of Kim's train, there's an interesting article about that, talks about that. So that's there. On the political side, of course, the impeachment inquiry is continuing to move. I don't know how far that'll really go, but they're certainly love to talk about that kind of stuff. We do have some stuff with the with T-Man, with even Bobart getting thrown out of a musical. And I think she even embarrassed herself by saying, "Do you know who I am?" Like, I can't stand it when people use that line like there's somebody special. And I'm not dissing her. I'm just dissing anybody in power and authority that thinks they can just run around saying, "You know who I am?" Anyway, the T-Man saga stuff, it's there as well. And stuff on the current president's son, updates there as well. So if you're looking for all that, a lot of stuff in the political space there. So go take a look. It's there. Look, the strikes that may be coming with the auto industry, that's probably going to be coming up soon. We're going to be hearing more about it. I think there's a lot. We had one of our callers last week tell us about it. And so some interesting updates on that around UAW, and even the position that puts, which their stronghold has always been one side of the party. it puts them in if they are not getting the love they want from the current president for the auto industry. So that's there, as well as an update on the hacking in not just MGM, but apparently Caesars paid off the bill instead of getting hit. They decided to pay the bill when they got hit with the ransomware. So just an example of two different approaches. I don't necessarily agree with paying those people, but that's what they chose to do, and they stayed in business and kept running. So and then apparently they're saying the strikes for the TV seasons are uh, they could be settled, or they got to be settled by October 1st, or there's a whole lot of stuff that we're expecting to watch that's not going to happen this year. So that and so much more. It's all there on the website, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for today's show, or if you want to get there quickly, just open that show notes link up in the description. It'll take you right here.
Here's what I think that is really bad is the TVs that do come out. They say that they're doing this to salvage the last of part of this, and if they do, they settle it by October 1st. There will be the crappiest TV ever because there will be all of these writers that are all going to try to pump stuff out and try to salvage the seasons, and it's going to be like they're going to write it on their lunchtime. We're going to have a lot of bad TV here soon. And then the Caesars thing, it makes me think like Caesars is kind of, I don't know. I don't know what Caesars history is, but some of those hotels are straight up like mafia, straight up, started by the mob, and who knows who owns them now. And I'm sure that there's some sort of, organized crime in there somewhere still. I just wonder the ones who paid them off right away, like, oh no, we don't need call the police. Yeah, well, oh, FBI. No, we paid them. We're good. We got our stuff back. It's back on. It's good. You don't have to look at our computers. We don't. Yeah, it's good. I just wonder because MGM is really big, and they obviously have production studios, all sorts of others. Caesars, on the other hand, it's been a long time since I've been to Vegas, but that kind of seems to me like more like would be on the more mob side. But who knows?
Well, it's now Caesars Entertainment, and it's something like 15 hotels and resorts around the globe. So
That doesn't take the mob out of it. That
no, it doesn't. But it's pretty. They're pretty big, kind of like
Whereas
MGM.
MGM though, like MGM has, universe. It has all sorts of crazy stuff under its wings, and it's probably a little bit more legit. But who knows? All of those things are probably corrupt. Before we go, last word. So Peter Pry, who passed, we didn't end up getting to talk to him before he went. I definitely want to send everybody, and there's information that we can give you during the show, but there's also information that everybody should be going and searching out themselves. Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, who we do have the chance, kind of his the person who's essentially filled his shoes, which nobody's going to truly fill Peter Pry's shoes. But he passed unexpectedly. We were actually lined up to talk to Peter Pry. But he has a long list, and I will make sure that this is also available on the website after the show. But he has wrote about this, and he tried to warn us. And I, in my heart, believe that this is stuff that everybody should know, that information is one of the most powerful things to have right now, especially with disasters. Not to be afraid of them, but to truly understand them, understand how it might go, what might happen, and how to spot when it does happen. Now, most of you could probably spot an EMP. I guarantee you all of our audience will be able to, but I bet you there's a lot of folks in your family circle or in your neighbors. They won't be able to put two and two together, even if 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 are together. When their phone's off, when their computer's off, when their house power's off, when the power's down the street and their car doesn't run, they'll still go, what's going on? But there's more than that. There's knowing how to deal with these scenarios. There are a ton of great resources right here. So make sure to go to the website. I will put this on there. You should go check out and try to research this on your own because, again, nobody can really sit there and it's going to be up to you to really learn about what this is. And you'll understand why this is one of the most important things to prep for. Out of all of the crazy things that could happen, this is now becoming less and less and less crazy and more realistic and more probable. So make sure to go check it out. I will put this link on the website. And again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you. Peppermint says, your channel helped open my eyes when God first opened my eyes to the world around me. I pray for all involved with this channel, Adam, Dex, mods, and families. Be blessed. And all God in control. Much love. Peppermint, thank you so much. And thank you for, now you've been around for a long time, at least a year now. Carol, thank you so much. Thanks, Marf and Dex J. Marfoogle News is great. Well, thank you. Danish Girl, thank you so much. Thank you for being the top supporter tonight. And West Max Roofing, thank you for being number 2. Thank you, guys. Thanks for supporting Independent. And, of course, thank you, everybody over on D-Live. Thank you, Poco Loco. Big shout-out to Beer Juice. And, of course, Johnson, thank you over on D-Live. Thank your mods. Go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
He tried to warn us. He tried to warn us. But we didn't listen. He tried to warn us. 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 But we didn't listen. He tried to warn us. I said that I'm on my what, I with a Danish on a Danish girl. I said that everybody. Twist me one, thank you. Later, have a good night. Bad Apple Media, hey, nice to see you. Randy Man, WIS Jen, Sharon Crawford. KT Cleans a lot, thank you. Stealth Mode. I went the I said the I'm with the wet He tried to warn us. I said that I'm on my way. He tried to warn us, but we didn't. I with the dying with lock up, Brian on the patch, and we all on top. Ooh, hey, everybody with the day on day. I Dan over wise in the midst to say. See hard thinking, we didn't listen again. And the Randy Man and the Whistling out. Everybody know the window whisk gen. And the oxygen, R2 chocolate. I'm on a vibe, I'm on a vibe.